Ballet Trockadero basically came out of a drag movement that had started in the late 60s, early 70s of New York City. There were a lot of drag theater going on, small productions of Medusa and all the great Greek tragedies, and also Marie Callas. They did all parodies of that. And somebody named Charles Ludlam, who formed this company called the Ridiculous Theatrical Company, asked somebody named Larry Ray to have a drag ballerina in his one of his productions. So that's where the seed of Ballet Trockadero came, from that production. And this company was formed, and then out of that company, 3 men broke away and formed the Ballet Trockadero de Monte Carlo. And their purpose of that was really to have a good time with dance, to parody dance styles that were current and also past. The old Russian classics were the favorite, but also contemporary, which would include George Balanchine, and modern, such as Martha Graham and Merce Cunningham. So the company really has developed out of that. On our program, in this time, we also have Yes, Virginia, another piano ballet, and Go for Barocco, which came out of that time in the 70s, and we consider to be actually our classic Trockadero dances, because they really capture everything great about Trockadero. Good parody of specific dance styles, in the case of both Jerome Robbins and George Balanchine, and also interesting characterizations, which is very important. So the company started in the 70s like that, and they started performing at in downtown lofts and small theaters. And it was really interesting because they would happen at midnight, and everyone from New York City Ballet and American Ballet Theater Uptown would come downtown after seeing their performances at midnight and watch the Trockadero. So everyone came. George Balanchine came, Baryshnikov came, Makarova, Rudolf Nureyev came, and it was really kind of like a cult item. In that theater, where these shows were going on, was a man named Eugene McDougall, who said, wow, we should try to do something with this. And he became the general director. And he's still with the company today, and has guided the company along in a business sense to keep it going all these years. And of course, the company has had many ups and downs, and many incarnations, many different things have happened to the company since then, but basically it's been moving along since 1974 when it started.
What's wonderful with the company, I mean, there are professional dancers, professional classical dancers.
Yes.
But they are also extraordinary actors, and they. So how you choose your dancers? Do they come and say, I would like to be part of you, or do you make auditions like a regular company, or?
Well, it sort of happens like the way everything happens in Ballet Trockadero. We don't plan it too much, it sort of just unfolds. Usually the people who are most effective for Ballet Trockadero seek the company out. And the reasons why they do that is usually no one would want to do Trockadero or be a Trockadero member unless you had a sense of humor. It's just not something that, if you're a strict classical dancer, you're very serious and you want to be a strict classical dancer. But if you have a really good sense of humor, and maybe you're a little wacky person, you want to be able to express that. And dance doesn't lend itself to that for the most part. So they see the company and they see that it might be interesting for them. So they come to us. And basically what they do is they take a company class, and I try to have them, stay around for a couple of days or a couple of hours at least, and I see how they interact with everybody in the company, because the company really is a group situation. We work as a team. So it's important that everybody be a team player. In any team, if you have one person who is not a team player, then the whole vibration of the company changes. And because it's very important what happens on stage, we have to have a really good atmosphere on stage. So team player, good dancer, and sense of humor are the 3 ingredients. For instance, if you have a great sense of humor and maybe aren't that strong of a dancer, you would be considered, or if you're a really fabulous dancer and maybe your sense of humor needs a little bit working on, we would also consider, but team player is the most important.
Because what's really wonderful is that the high quality of the dancing.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes you are even better than real classical company, and so that's really surprising. How good are the dancers? So they are all classical dancers, basically.
Right. Everyone is a classically trained dancer. First of all, it's just too plain hard to do what what we're, you know, classical dance is hard, and then you put a man on point, that becomes even harder. So if you're not capable dancer, you actually physically break down and can't do it after a while. In terms of the dancing part of it, is that women really are going, when they're training as young girls and on through their careers, are really going for a lightness and an etherealness and a delicacy that is beautiful on female ballerinas, but that's not what we're going for. We're going for the male attack, the male vitality, the male vigor in relationship to the point work. So that's really what the audience is seeing. They're seeing a point work aspect that they really haven't and should not have seen before from a woman, because we're really going for the male aggressive male attack on something that is traditionally a female area. So that's why I think the people, the audience members, are so astounded by the technical level.
Yes, because I would just wanted to say what's wonderful is that you have male playing female. You don't have male pretending being female, and this is exactly the point. What makes the quality, the extraordinary quality of the company. And each one has his own character. Who choose the character they're destined to play? I mean, who says you will be Taglioni, and is it you, or it's themselves who slowly become and choose to act?
Well, when everyone joins the company, we have a big pool of names. That, you know, everyone has a stage name, both male and female. For instance, Paul Gieslin is Ida Never Say Never. That's his female ballerina name, and his male name is Vilor Pillow. So usually when people come into the company, I will choose a name for them. And usually I'm looking at them first couple of days and I'm seeing what their personality is like, and it sort of just comes, and I assign them a name. And then I tell them what their name is going to be, and I show them their biography, and I say to them, now this is your persona that you have to develop. And in rehearsals, we call them their Trockadero names. For instance, Paul is Ida, Manolo is Fifi, Brian is Vanya. So they start to identify with that name. And that helps in the characterization when you're making a character on stage, so that once you have your character, all the comedy really does fall into place, because you really have something that you can hold on to and then take it from there. In terms of casting, I basically do that. That's my job, and Pamela Probisco, the ballet mistress, and I talk about this person would be appropriate, and you know, everyone talks about everything, of course. So I make up the casting, and usually what you're trying to do with casting is that you're either trying to go with something that is very obvious to that person, or you go to something that's completely opposite to that person. And in that way you can find comedy of really different types. So for instance, in the Grand Pas de Quatre, when you have all the great ballerinas, every role in the Ballet Trockadero is covered and casted several times. So that every time the ballet is done with a different cast, it takes a completely different approach, and that makes it interesting for all of us, and it makes it interesting for anyone who would be interested in seeing the company over, you know, several years, or if we're doing a long run, as we have been recently doing in big cities in Europe, like London and Berlin. You know, the audience members, if they were interested, could come back and see basically the same ballets, but done in a completely different way. And that also helps the development of the company, because everybody is watching everybody develop these roles, and that's how we find new comedy, new aspects to ballets. And in that regard, we're not a museum, but we're the comedy is evolutionary. Yeah.
You are probably the company in the world who has the biggest repertoire, and who choose the pieces, and because you have Paquita and Raymonda, would probably not anymore in any repertoire in any big company, except really
the Bolshoi, the Kirov, the Paris Opera.
Like that. Who decide which ballet will be performed then? How are you choosing your repertoire?
Well, the company really has a huge repertoire from the past, from the 70s. We have a lot of works from Peter Anastastes in the late 70s. We have a lot of our classics. Pas de Quatre would be considered one. We have some white ballets, Swan Lake, Les Sylphides. The newer ballets are coming in. We're choosing more of the old fashioned, I guess maybe that's not the correct word, but the older Russian staples that people just don't really do that anymore. And the reason why we do those ballets is actually two reasons. First of all, they're not done anymore anywhere, and I like to see them. So in order to see them, you have to do them. You know, Esmeralda we have in the repertoire, as you mentioned, Raymonda, ballets like that, Harlequinade we have, things that people aren't doing anymore, Paquita we have, and those ballets are really beautiful and should be seen. And what's happening in the contemporary world is that you can go to a ballet evening and see nothing but modern works. You can go to a big ballet company in New York, visiting New York City, and you won't see one tutu on stage. And so I saw that trend starting quite a while ago, and I thought, wow, that doesn't make sense. A ballet company should present tutus. You know, one ballet without a tutu is fine, but the whole evening should have beautiful tutus because tutus are fantastic. They're beautiful. They should be seen. So we started going in that direction for that reason, because we were seeing the trend was not that. But also, those are the ballets that we all love and we like to do. And they also lend themselves more to satire. Even in Russia now, in the Kirov or the Mariinsky, they're really trying, I believe, this may not be accurate, but I think they're trying to become, they're kind of taking their very stylized technique and also kind of making it a little bit less stylized. And I think that's a real shame, because if you look at the old ballets videos from the 50s and the 60s, you had all this incredible ornamentation of style, which is kind of going by the wayside. And it's beautiful. When you first look at it, you think, what is that? You know, I mean, it's so bizarre. It's so Baroque. And then the more you look at it, the more beautiful it becomes. And we really love all of that stuff. Everyone in Ballet Trockadero is really obsessed with the classical style. And that classical style, when you're obsessed with it, becomes an exaggeration. And that's where we find a lot of our humor and our enjoyment of it. I mean, because, you know, here you are in a tutu and point shoes and a wig and eyelashes, and you have to present something more extreme because you look more extreme.
Thank you.
Thank you.